Cousins, Colin, does it feel kind of, sort of over for him
It does.
in Atlanta?
It does. He's aged really quickly.
Yeah, this last month has been brutal. Falcons lose to Minnesota, their fourth straight. Cousins in those four, 0 touchdowns, 8 picks. Raheem Morris unbelievably says he's going to stick with his veteran quarterback.
Everything is always discussed when you go watch the tape and do all those type of things. But like Kirk Cousins is our quarterback. We'll have the ability to go watch this tape just like we do every single week. You know, Kirk played significantly better than he did the week before. We got a chance to go out there and focus on us and get a chance to go out there and really work on what we do and what we do well. And we'll do whatever is best to go win football games, and Kirk's definitely a part of that.
So is this a sign maybe that Michael Penix has not wowed them in practice? Is that possible?
Well, I think, first of all, you don't want to overreact. They before this game, they led the division. So you don't want to do a Jets and fire Robert
I think
Saleh.
They technically were tied, but
they had beaten Tampa twice. So so I think they're going to have big discussions this week. I would have started Kirk Cousins in that spot on the road. If you look at Atlanta's schedule, do they have a comfortable home game against an average defense? I could see them saying this may be a shootout. They look at film. We don't want Michael Penix in a shootout dropping 45 times. I think this week they have to discuss it.
So they are at the Raiders on Monday Night Football.
Okay, so they get extra time to prepare against an average team. Then they get the Giants, Washington, and Carolina. I think you got to roll with Penix. I think you have to at this point.
See what you got, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, this is about as good as it gets. Banged up Raiders, horrible Giants that may be soft tanking. Now's the time to see if the kid can play.
Yeah. That schedule's fascinating. I mean, the Raiders should be a win. The Giants should be a win. The Commanders, let's just say it's a loss. I as you guys know, I like to do the easiest wins and the easy losses. Not to say that those are obviously predictable, but it's just like any team that looks like it's going to be tough, just give them a loss just so we can get a baseline. And so you should beat the Raiders. You should beat the Giants. You should beat the Panthers. And then maybe you lose to the Commanders. But obviously you're more than capable of beating the Commanders. And it's like that division is still there for you to win, for you to take. Like it is still there. The wild card has got to be pretty much non-existent, honestly. So it's got to be win the division or no playoff spot. The whole idea of starting Penix, honestly, I just don't know if anyone's opinion matters outside of the people that are there. I know us as fans, we can have opinions, but we have no idea what Penix is looking like. We have no idea how deeply he understands the offense, what how comfortable he is. What do the other players want? The receivers? I just have no idea, honestly. If anyone does, please let me know if you heard any other things that I might not, have access to. I'd love to hear it. Any other local Atlanta Falcons type content where they have a little bit more direct insiders to that organization, if what whispers there are, I'd love to hear it. This game was a weird one because Kirk Cousins really had some really great moments and great throws. The one throw that really stood out to me, because I mean he had the one throw to Mooney for 49 yards, which was beautiful. But there was this one where he turned down this check down to then throw it to McLeod for a huge gain for a third down conversion. And it's just, when you see little things like that, you see the value of a playmaker from the pocket and a true seasoned veteran. Because those are the reads, those are the decisions, those are the throws and the plays that you don't see young quarterbacks making. You don't. Especially if you're starting a young rookie quarterback at week 15. I mean, think about how it took games for Penix to get going. How it took Bo Nix to get going. And how it took Jaden Daniels to get going. It took them a few games. And now you're talking about like throwing in, a rookie quarterback week 15 and say, here you go, have at it. It's a tough spot to do it. It is. And I'm never a fan of that. I'm never a fan of throwing in a rookie quarterback in the second half. At the end of the season, I just think that there's nothing to gain from that, quite frankly. Because what if you only saw Bo Nix's first handful of games at the end of the season, and that was it? Would people really feel good about Bo Nix starting this, the next season in 25? No, they would not. Not at all. And that's part of the problem. Then it's like, well, then where do we go from here? How do you start off the next off season? Oh, well, the preseason. It's just like, where do you go from there? It's too sloppy. So you either see this through to the end with Kirk, unless Penix is really wowing you, unless you're like, this kid gets it. And in practice, oh my God, you see the throws that he's making? Like, unless you're really having those moments, then I'm not so sure. But Kirk Cousins was 23 for 37, 344 yards. I don't think this score was really truly representative of it. I mean, listen, the Falcons were the Vikings were really able to go off. Sam Darnold went off. I mean, Addison and Jefferson just feasted. And this is one of those interesting games. I mean, they had 32 carries, the Falcons, for 158 yards rushing, and asking Kirk Cousins to throw the ball 37. I think that's too much for an older quarterback. I think that's too much for any quarterback, quite frankly. I think Kirk Cousins should consistently be a 25, pass attempt type QB. I still think they're asking Kirk Cousins to do too much. But I mean, at the end of the day, there was 3 turnovers and 12 penalties. 12 penalties for 127 yards. And the fumble when there was 28-21. I mean, this is more of just the devil's in the details at this point. I mean, some of this is falling on the head coach. And 12 penalties. 12 penalties. I mean, that first interception was just bad. They were driving. The score was 7-7. You have a chance to go up 14-7, 10-7. The one interception was just like obviously a little overthrown and then a great catch. I just wouldn't be so quick just to say that Kirk Cousins is done. He may not look like what he looked like a couple years ago, but I think they're asking too much from him. Honestly. I mean, you have someone like Sam Darnold. He only threw the ball 28 times. Russell Wilson threw the ball 26 times. Jalen Hurts, 21. Josh Allen. Josh Allen, the best quarterback in the NFL right now, threw 37 times, the same number of times as Kirk Cousins. And Josh Allen had 22 for 37. Obviously, Josh Allen definitely played better. But you understand what I'm trying to say? They're asking too much. Brock Purdy, 25. I just think they're asking him to do too much. We know that. When he had that crazy game, what was it, over 509 yards, whatever it was. 507, I forget at this point already. You're asking too much. Asking way too much. And that's what defensive head coaches consistently do. They ask too much from their quarterback. While typically the offensive head coaches understand we need to be a little bit more balanced. And again, it's not like the run game was lacking. 158 yards is legit. And it is interesting because, you had 30 carries and 30 plus pass attempts. So that's already, up there in plays. But combined with the turnovers and the penalties and some untimely turnovers, the game gets blown wide open, and before you know it, it's a close game, and then you have a 42-21, score. So that's why I watched that game, and it's not so clear to me, if you take Kirk Cousins out and put in Penix or a different quarterback, then now the problems get solved. Kirk Cousins may not be good enough to overcome some of these issues. He's even doing his part in causing some of these issues, but I don't think you replace him and now suddenly like, oh yeah, they're cruising now. And having 12 penalties is honestly just the cherry on top of that. That's the stamp of approval of like, yep, when you have a game like that, that's what's going to happen. When you have Sam Darnold thrown to some wide open receivers, it's like, there you go. So the Falcons are in an interesting spot. They are in a difficult spot. And that is one of the drawbacks of not having a truly established offensive head coach. Because this is where you have the Kevin O'Connell, the Andy Reid, even the Mike McCarthy. We don't even have to go with the top. Even like a Mike McCarthy. That's where you go to him and say, what do we do here? which quarterback you're running these practices, you're seeing them, you're evaluating the talent. Which quarterback is going to help us win this division right now? And you let them make the decision. They say, listen, Penix is going to be great. I don't want to start him right now because of this, that, and third. You trust it. If you say, Penix is just not ready, you trust it. Penix says, listen, I know we paid Kirk Cousins this money. It did not unfold how we thought it would do. Penix is going to help us out. I think he's going to win 3 of these next 4 games. Let's do it. And you trust it. That's why you pay your head coach. But when you have younger coaches, when you have a defensive head coach, those decisions end up being more made out of desperation and immaturity and just lack of experience rather than true established, like, this is what we do. And that is the problem that the Falcons have. So I'm really curious to see how they kind of resolve it, how they work through it, and ultimately what the solution ends up being, if there is any this season. Because the division is still there, but they've obviously have hurt themselves in the foot. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Atlanta Falcons? Do you think it's time to move on from Kirk Cousins? How do you think they should handle all of this? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.